Okay, so what I want to do, if you don't mind, to please indulge me for the first one, like literally 1 minute, I'd like to go back to Samach Zayin Amid Beis, and just Ema, 3 lines from the bottom, because when I recorded this on Friday, I don't think I did a good job. Just the last 3 lines. So just the flow of the Gemara, just to finish up yesterday's daf, just in Nedarim, I think is I don't know. Just to finish up finish up the concept from yesterday's daf, which is the Gemara is trying to figure out the source that a girl after Erisin, both the father and the husband are both meifar her neder. So the parsha is 3 parshios. There's the first parsha, which is a father being meifar the single daughters. The third parsha is the husband being meifar his wife after full nesuin. And then there's the middle one, which is ambiguous, and the Gemara is basically proving the middle one must be referring to a case where it's a husband after kedushin, and it must be that the father and the husband are both together meifar. So the Gemara just said, Ema im beis isha nedara loymar she'ein habal meifar b'koidvin. So the Gemara says maybe like this. Maybe the second parsha is Taka talking about a girl after kedushin, and the husband can be meifar entirely without the father. And maybe the third parsha is also talking about a girl after nesuin. So the second is after kedushin, the third is after nesuin. The second is the husband could be meifar entirely, and after nesuin also could be meifar entirely. So you can ask a kasha, why do I need the third parsha if I know the husband can be meifar entirely after kedushin, kal v'chomer after nesuin? So the Gemara says, Ema, perhaps in beis isha nedar loymar she'ein habal meifar b'koidvin. Perhaps you're right, it's unnecessary. Really, the second parsha is a girl after kedushin, and the husband maybe can be meifar entirely without the father. And you'll say, then why do you need the third parsha for, to say that the husband can be meifar after nesuin? It's just to tell you that the husband can be meifar after nesuin, but not before nesuin. Maybe that's the purpose of it. But really, after kedushin, the husband can be meifar entirely. So the Gemara says, "Uminei aris meifar b'koidmin." The reason why that's a flawed argument, it is true that a girl after kedushin, the husband can be meifar entirely, but not the nedarim that she did before they got married. That's true. Here's the halacha though: after erisin, the husband can be meifar, but the husband's also able to be meifar what she made before, as we'll see in the next Mishnah. So you're gonna say like this: after nesuin, the husband can be meifar entirely, but he can't be meifar before. That's when she's entirely in his jurisdiction. But after kedushin, you're saying he could be meifar entirely, but he could also be meifar nedarim that she made before. How could his power be stronger after kedushin than after nesuin? It must be elah mishum shutz ve'da'ab. It must be the reason why he's stronger after kedushin is because his strength in numbers. It's because the person who's being meifar after kedushin is not just the husband; it's the husband and the father, and therefore the husband takes care of the elements of the nedarim after kedushin, and the father's chaylik takes care before. So even if you wanted to argue that that's the source, that'll still prove that after kedushin it's the father and the husband. Okay, so basically what we've had is we've proven.
After nesuin, it does go backwards that you're able
No.
to make
No.
from before.
No. Nope. It can't. After nesuin cannot.
No, after erison.
Yes. Yes.
Even though erison is weaker.
The reason is because the person being meifar. So how could that be? The answer is because when after kedushin, the one who's removing the vows is not just the husband; it's the husband and the father. So you have strength in numbers. That's the only explanation. Because if it's just the husband, it doesn't make sense that as he is more in control of her, he has less ability to revoke the vows. It must be, that's exactly the point. It must be that after kedushin, after nesuin are different. What's the difference? After nesuin, it's just the husband. After kedushin, it's the husband and the father. That's the only way to explain it. Okay, so that was just wanted to, because I didn't explain that well on Friday. So here's the deal. This is all to prove that the husband and the father can be meifar the nedarim after kedushin, and the source is from the second parsha. Fine. New Gemara. Debei Rabbi Yishmael Tana. Debei Rabbi Yishmael has a different source, that a girl after kedushin, the father and the husband can be meifar the nedarim, and it's not from the second parsha. It's from a different pasuk. The pasuk says, "Bein ish leishto, bein av levito." The pasuk describes, the full pasuk is, the pasuk summarized after all these halachas says these are the halachas of bein ish ishto bein av levito. So that kind of sounds like it's talking about a woman who's bein ish ishto, bein av levito, that she's sort of between her husband and her dad. Who's that? Kedushin. So it must be, and who is meifar? Both ish and baal. So there you go. That's he learns that from this pasuk. Okay. So the Gemara says, fine, that's fair. Fine, fair enough. So what does Tana de Rabbi Shmuel do with yesterday's psukim? Right? According to Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, the source that a girl after Kedushin, the husband and the father are meifar is from this pasuk. So what do you do with the second parasha from yesterday? What do they do with the pasuk from yesterday? So you have two sources that after girl after kedushin, it's the husband and the father. We have yesterday's source and today's source. So what does Tana de Rabbi Shmuel do with yesterday's source? The answer is mukim le'iduch de Rabba. They use it for a different teaching of Rabba. It's unclear in the Girsos. Who's this? Rabba, Pashas Rabba. They use it for a different teaching of Rabba. What's that teaching? As we'll see, this is on Daf Ayin. This is in 2 days. That Rabba has two drashas. The second drasha, he uses this pasuk, the pasuk from yesterday, to tell you the following halacha. You have a girl that's after kedushin. So when she's after kedushin, it's the husband and the father. Then the husband dies. Then she does kedushin a second time. So after kedushin the second time, it's a different person. So kedushin, husband died. Kedushin a second time. Who's made for the Nedarim the second time? Again, the husband and the father. Meaning, after kedushin, when husband dies, she goes back to her dad's house. Meaning, it's sort of you go backwards. That's only true after kedushin, not after nesuin. So the source that after kedushin, she goes back to her father's house, and then when she does kedushin a second time, it's like back to combo. That's from that second pasuk. Okay. That's again, it's drushes in 2 days. We'll figure the Gemara will go through these drushes. But
this is all talking about when she's not a Bulgarian.
Correct. So the Gemara says, okay, so yesterday's Gemara, what do they do with this pasuk of Tana de Rabbi Shmuel from today? Right? Tana de Rabbi Shmuel said, "Bein ishli ishto bein avl vito" is talking about Naram Marasa. We already know this from yesterday's daf. So according to the opinion of yesterday's daf, what do you do with today's pasuk of Tana de Rabbi Shmuel? So the Gemara says, it's to teach you what type of nedarim the husband could be meifar. This is something people misunderstand. They think that you can ask yourself a kasha: if the husband can be meifar, then why do you ever need hataras nedarim? The answer is the husband can't be meifar all nedarim. The husband can be meifar from the pasuk. The pasuk describes the nedarim the husband can be meifar are things that are against him. So if she makes a neder like you can't eat, he could definitely nullify those. But now this pasuk is bein ish ishto tells you he also could be meifar nedarim that affect their relationship, like not having relations or certain things. The Gemara is going to go through which ones. But so if she just makes a neder that she's not going to eat chalav yisrael, like whatever, he can't be meifar that. But it has to be either things that are against him or affect their relationship. The definition of how far we've had once before. If any Zikr people were here, they would tell me what daf. I don't remember what daf, but we had this once before, and the Gemara is going to address this later on. So that you learn now from Bein Ish Ishta. Okay, fine. Iboilu, here's the kasha. It's a very fascinating kasha. The way my brain works, I'll describe you how I see the kasha. It's strange, but here's the kasha. Iboilu, I have a kasha. Let's say we said that you have a girl after kedushin. The husband and the father both nullified the vows, 50%. The question is it Baal Megas Gayis or Maklish Kolish? Let's say the husband is revoking 50%. Is he entirely removing his 50% of the vow, but the father's 50% of the vow is still intact?
So would the vow still be intact regardless?
What do you mean?
If she says, I'm not going to eat whatever it is, right? So great. So the father takes away 50%, but the 50% she still has that neder in effect.
True. Here's the question though. Here's the question. Is it 50% of the neder is still intact, or is it 100% of the neder 50% intact? What I mean is like this. Think of it as two squares, two boxes. There's the husband side and the father side. When the husband removes his part of the vow, is he taking his side and there's a full box left? Or is the husband slicing down the middle and just weakening the entire vow, but he didn't remove his chelik? What do I mean? What's the nafkamina? So basically, is the husband removing 100% of his 50% or 50% of the 100%? I know that sounds very strange, but... Huh? What? He weakens. Meaning, basically, is the husband slicing the vow in half, but what he leaves over is 100% still strong, or is he overall weakening the vow? What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is as follows. Kagoin, heichi kambala. What's the nafkamina? Kagoin, the nadra mitrain zaysin. A woman says she's not going to eat two olives, two zaysim. She's not going to eat 2 olives. B'shama aris. The husband, after Kedushin, hears about it. V'heifala, he removes the vow. So here's the shaila. Did he just make 1 olive mutter and 1 olive aser? Or did he just make it both olives are kind of aser? That's the shaila. Meaning, is 1 olive still as aser before? By the way, you don't know which one, so she has to eat both. But that's the shaila. It's a tifa shaila. Is it when she made a neder, she's not going to eat 2 olives. So there's the husband olive, the father olive, right? The husband says, I remove my half of the vow, nullified. Is it that both olives are just still kind of usher, but they're not as usher as they were before? Or 1 olive is completely mutter, 1 olive is completely usher? You just don't know which one. What's the question is 50% across the side or in my head, that's how I look at it. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna overcomplicate it further. But the point is, she asked her 2 olives, and then the husband removes the vow of 1 olive, half of it. So the kasha is 1 olive 100% still aser? Meaning, and if she were to eat that olive, now you don't know which one, so she has to eat both. If she were to eat that olive that's aser, she would have to bring a carbon, or no, both olives are just now not as aser. So there's no carbon left, but there's an issa deraisa.
Why are we assuming it does anything? Why is it doing half?
Because the assumption is.
No, without the other party, then it's meaningless.
It's got to be something. It's got to do something.
There's still a neder in place that she's still not able to eat.
Well, then how does it work when the father removes it? Then all of a sudden.
Yes, then it goes to play. Until then, it's like.
Okay, the Gemara is obviously assuming that it's definitely accomplishing something. The question is it accomplishing 100% of 50 or 50% of 100? But it's definitely accomplishing something. I hear what you're saying, but the Gemara is obviously assuming it's accomplishing something. The question is, are these 2 olives, they're both just less usher than they were, or is 1 olive 100% mutter and 1 olive 100% usher? The nafkamina is if you eat both olives. Now she has to eat both olives because we don't know which one she removed because it's all esoteric. But so she eats both olives. Is she going to have to get lashes or not? If 1 olive is still 100% usher, so she ate an olive, which is the shear of a neder, 100%. She gets malchus and but if it's that he doesn't remove entirely 1/2, he just weakens the entire neder, just weakens it. Then if she eats both halves, she's going to be over nisser, but she's not going to get lashes. That's the shayla. Are you weakening the neder, or it's 100% strong, it's just half of what it was? Or is it just overall weaker? That's the shayla. So the Gemara says, Amri Mega's guy is... So the case is, and she made a neder, she's not going to eat 2 olives. B'shama aris v'heferla. The husband hears about it, removes the vow, and then she eats both olives. Mega's guy is if half of the vow is still 100% intact, Laki, she'll get lashes. But if she overall just weakened the vow, it's just a shvacha vow, then he's surah ba'almuhu. Then he's just over an isser.
Gavin's a question. What's the shaykhs to him?
Huh?
It's
a good shayla. It could be that maybe it was the only thing they had to eat or something. You're right. It's the case must be something that's related to both of them. Yeah, I know.
100% of 1, right?
Yeah.
So then you get machmas of eating it.
Yeah.
There's 50%.
Then it's just a weaker neder. So it's just perceived as like, oh, you're over a weaker neder. You're over an isser. You're not going to get lashes.
We never have that in anything else.
It's a very interesting perspective. Also, this kind of sounds like a chakira from Rav Chaim. It doesn't even seem like a Gemara. It feels like a chakira from the Achronim. The Gemara is speaking this out. Is it 100% intact, 50% of what it was, or is it just overall a weaker neder? And then the second part can just wipe it out. Meaning, did you remove half the stain, but half the stain is still intact? Or did the first husband just spray and now it's overall, it's kind of, and then the husband could just, and that's the shaila. So, we're going to run through the daf fairly quickly. So, Tashima, let's bring a raya. In 2 dafim, the Mishnah is going to tell us the following rule. The rule is that when the husband dies, the father now has full jurisdiction, which makes sense because the husband died. She's back to being single. But if the father dies, the husband cannot just revoke the vows until Nisuin. So if you have this after Kedushin, so it's 50-50. If the husband were to die, the father is now in full control because she's back to being single. But if the father were to die, the husband is not in full control. And there is no removing of the vows until marriage. So the Brisa gives, I think ArtScroll has a chart. The Brisa gives 5 cases. Most of these cases are pretty identical with each other. Yeah, it has 5 cases. Most of them are pretty identical. There's a very long run to understand the nuance of why these cases are different. I'm just going to go with the basic concepts, and you could always elaborate further into the Rishonim on your own. But just to push it, when does the rule is that when the husband dies, the power goes to the father. When the father dies, it does not go to the husband. So the Gemara says like this: what are the rules? So case number 1. Tashema, when do we say that if the husband dies, the rights of revoking goes entirely to the father? So it's the following circumstances. Bisman, it's basically when the husband did not mekayim the vow before he died. Because if the husband was mekayim the vow, even when he dies, although it's like a restart, because she's single now, but if the husband was already mekayim, it's too late. So it's bisman shaloi shama habal kodim shiyamas. It's either where the husband didn't hear about the vow before he died, because if he didn't hear, obviously he couldn't have been mekayim the neder to say it's a good neder, or sheshama v'hefer, or he heard about it and he removed it, so he definitely was not mekayim it. Or he heard about it, didn't say anything, but he died that day. Because basically, if someone hears about the vow and doesn't say anything for 24 hours, that itself is it's an agreement. It's like a passive aggressive way of agreeing. So the only way that the father gets the power is when the husband was not mekayim the tanai. So either he didn't hear about it, he heard and revoked, or he heard, didn't say anything, but died within 24 hours. But he was not mekayim it. If he was mekayim it, it's too late. Makes sense. Then the Brisa says, that's the scenario where if the husband dies, the rights go to the father. Go to the next page. It's short. But if the husband hears about it and he's mekayim the tanai, the neder, he confirms it, then it's too late. Or he hears about it, doesn't say anything for 24 hours and then dies, but 24 hours pass, it's already a passive-aggressive way of being mekayim it. And yachalafer, it's too late. Because once it's already mekayim, then even if the husband, the concept is basically when the husband dies, he sort of gives over his rights like as an inheritance back to the father, so to speak. That's how they're looking at it. But if the husband was already substantiated the neder, then the father can't overrule that. That's not going to work. Fine. Case number 2. Shama, by the way, this is all not Nageya except for the last case, which I'm not sure whether we'll do today. It's technically on tomorrow's daf. We'll see. Maybe we'll do it. We'll just run through this quickly because it's not Nageyas. Case number 2. Shama Avia, if the father heard about the neder and revoked it. And then the husband died. Then the father died. So the father revoked it, but then the father died. What's the halacha? The halacha is the husband does not have the ability, meaning even though the father revoked it already. So you'd think that the husband would just be like, too late. Once the father dies, the husband does not have full control. So, the husband...
Wait, so the father revokes it, which means that it's over.
No, it's over from his side.
From his side.
But the halacha is that when he dies, the husband does not have full control. So therefore... The halacha is basically that when you die, it restarts. No, true. But when someone dies, it restarts. So when the father dies, it sort of like erases everything he did. So the husband, you're asking him basically, he's doing it on his own, which he can't. That's how we perceive it, huh?
What was the other percentage?
It's basically, it's in the ether. That's the point. When the husband dies, his revocation, even if he was revoking, it's nullified. But she's now being single and she's now back to her father's house, so the father can do it. But when the father dies, and once he dies, then it's sort of like erased what he did. But now you can't have the husband, you're basically asking the husband after Kedushin to just revoke it on his own, which he can't. So then it says, the husband does not have the rights. That's case number 2. Case number 3, which is very similar. The husband hears about it and revokes it. And the father didn't hear about it, and then the husband died. Meaning, so the husband died, just the father didn't hear about it. It goes to the father. The Iran describes why the only difference between this case and the first case is that the father didn't hear about it. So basically, you might think that it would make a difference whether the father heard about it or not, because when the father hears about it, that sort of brings him into the shaila. So you might think that the father only gets the rights when he heard about it before the husband died. Kamash one, it doesn't matter. That's the point. There's basically, it doesn't matter when the father heard, whether he did hear, didn't hear before the husband dies. Husband dies and didn't Mekayim, the father has the rights. Okay, case number 4. Shama Baila V'Hefela. The husband heard about the vow and revoked it. And the father didn't hear about it and the father died. So meaning, you want to know if the husband has full rights? The answer is no. Again, this is the exact same case that we said before, that the husband has the only difference is that the father didn't hear about it before he died. So you might think that because the father didn't hear about it, he was never involved. So the husband maybe is the only real party at play. No, Kamash Malan, it's the same halacha over and over again. Now, case number 5 is the beginning of tomorrow's daf. I'll do it very quickly, and maybe tomorrow I'll elaborate more. The last case, and this is why it's negeya. Shama avia v'hefila. The father hears about the vow and revokes it. Okay, that's so far so good. And then the husband dies. So the father revoked it, husband died. So you'd be like, easy. That's great. Just goes to the dad. The father has to repeat the revocation for the chelik that he got, meaning he revoked his half. Husband dies, so now he sort of acquired the husband's half. So he's got to say it one more time. Odpam, I'm revoking now on behalf of the chelik I just acquired. Okay, it makes sense. Basically, he's getting the father's inheritance, the husband's inheritance. He's acquiring it. It's so far so good. Rav Nosson says this concept that again we've had till now. And this is the main point. When the husband dies, the rights go to the dad. That's pashut. The only thing now we're saying is the husband revoked his half, then the father revoked his half, then the husband died. He also gets it. Okay, makes sense. Rav Nosson, hein different Beis Shammai. That's Beis Shammai's opinion. Beis Hillel says no good. Why? Says the Gemara, Shma Mina, Beis Shammai Migas Gayis, Beis Hillel Mikdash Kolish, Shma Mina. What's the explanation? The explanation is as follows. According to Beis Shammai, when a husband revokes the vow, when the father revokes the vow, or the husband, whatever, it's cutting it in half. So what's the case? The father revoked the vow, then the husband died. So what happened? According to Beis Shammai, the father revoked his vow, so he erased entirely his half. What was left was a full 100% of the husband's. When he died, it was given over to the father. He erases that again. So far, so good. Beis Hillel holds miklash kolish. Beis Hillel holds that when you revoke the vow, you don't actually remove half of it. You just weaken it. And a side effect, apparently, of a weakened vow is that it cannot be given over as inheritance. So says Beis Hillel, when the father revokes his vow, he doesn't actually remove half. He just makes it weakened. A weakened vow cannot be given over. So when the husband dies, it can't be given over. Let me just read you the Rush.
It's not his.
Well, the Rush says, it's not
his to give. It's not 100% of his to give. It's her vow that he has control over.
Exactly. Meaning, if you look at it, like Beis Shammai looks at it as there's two halves. When the father revokes his side, he removes his side entirely. What's remaining is very strong. So strong that the husband can now give it over to the father when he dies. So he could erase it. Beis Hillel says no. Miklash kolish. When the father revoked his vow, he didn't actually remove anything. He just weakened it. And apparently, that weakened state is now a weak vow. A weak vow cannot be given over. So when the husband dies, it can't be given over to the father, because what he did was when the father revoked it, he sort of just made the vow you can't pick it up. It was just shvacher, and it can't be given over. I think the lashon of the Rashi says, Beishamai savri megas gayis ki kadma v'hever chalke chotch l'shnayim is bad chelke v'adayin chatzi hasheni ukemei v'rashu chalke shel sheni. But Beis Hillel says it's too late because I'm sorry. Beis Hillel oimer aviyu you've time mishum to Beishamai megas gayis. I'm sorry, the Ran kishehever av tchila hever chalke bolvad Beis Hillel miklash kolish kishehever av chalke nigra chalke shel bal. When the father revoked his vow, he not only affected his side, he affected both sides. Overall, it's weaker. And it's no longer a chashiv, a vow that can be given over in inheritance to the father when the husband died. So that's it's an interesting daf. It's mamish like a Rav Baruch Ber. It's like Rav Chaim. It's a very interesting daf, but that's the Gemara says. So maybe tomorrow I'll try to look over to see if there's anything that comes. But that's the Gemara's explanation. I will stop it.